Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be joining from. I am HR Funk, and welcome to my old year's live stream, so called because this is the last time in 2022 that we're going to be able to get together and discuss our shared interests and ideas. Also, just as I've done in the last several live streams, I am going to be taking guests this evening. So if you would like to appear as a guest on the show, all you have to do is email me at the email address you see going across the screen right there, and I will send you a link to the live stream and you can join as a guest. Now, as always, I have to warn everyone, if you join as a guest, be sure if you want to be seen that you have your camera on. If you would rather just join by audio, you can choose to have your camera off and just join with your voice, and we can have a conversation back and forth that way. And this is something I've been doing in the last several live streams that I really enjoy. I love having people come on and being able to actually see you and talk to you, as opposed to just having a name and text on the screen over here. Not to talk poorly about anyone who prefers to interact that way. I'm not criticizing anyone, but it's just really nice on my end to be able to have somebody that I can really talk to and have a conversation with. And the whole guest idea has been kind of a little bit of a hit and miss as far as the technology goes. The very first time I did it, I had two guests and everything went very smoothly and we were able to talk back and forth, and that went very well. Then we've had a couple of times more recently where there's been, a lot of echoes and sound problems and one thing and another. So I think what I'm going to do tonight, just to keep from bogging down the stream, is if someone comes on as a guest and we have those kind of technical issues, I'm going to move you back out of the room and give you a chance to try to work on that and get it straightened out. And then I'll see if we can bring you back in. And hopefully after that, we'll be able to actually have a conversation back and forth. But I just don't want to get in that awkward situation where, we're waiting for someone to try to figure out what's going on their end. And in the meantime, everybody is, waiting on this end with the chat conversation going on. So I'm going to try to avoid that this evening. But I don't want to discourage anyone. If you do want to join as a guest, be sure to let me know, and I will get you that link to the show and we'll get you on as quickly as possible. I hope you all had a great Christmas, by the way. Mine was fantastic. We went down to see my son and daughter who live north of Columbus in Delaware, Ohio. So we spent Christmas Day down there and had a fantastic Christmas. We actually stayed till the following day, went out and ran around a little bit with them, and then came back later on the 26th. So it's been a busy, busy week for me. Obviously, there's been no videos this week. Also, just so you know, coming on Saturday, on New Year's Eve, there's again not going to be a video that day. Again, because I think most people on New Year's Eve are going to have better things to do than watch YouTube. And also, it's just giving me a chance to, spend time with the family and do some other things. And then I'll get back into the swing of things next week with some new videos. I do have several ideas for new videos coming up next week. And the only thing I have is just to actually get them produced so that I can get them out on time. And looking over here at the chat log, we've already got a lot of people here. Alaska Andy was in first of all. So hello to you. Craig Benz. Jeff Tim is here. 18 seconds after it started. Glad to have you, Jeff. Chichatanga is here. Joe Morgan. Glad to see you, Joe. Carl, probably going to get this wrong. Björky, or I'm hoping that's right. Björky, Carl Björky. Jeff Barron, how you doing, Jeff? Lucky One is here. Happy New Year to you. Rookie Spartan is here. Glad to see you. Steve Fisher. And let's see. Jeff is helping give technical advice for anyone that wants to join as a guest. And hopefully you'll all be a little bit more technologically advanced than I am, because I still have problems with all this sometimes. Paul, a.k.a. Headhog, says, belated Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. I hope you had a great Christmas, great holiday. And for all of you, if you celebrate other holidays this time of year, I hope they were fantastic for you. Rock 2980 is here. Says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Um, a lot of you went through the Christmas Eve / Christmas Day snowstorm that we had this year in the northern part of the country. And we weathered that pretty well here. We had a few inches of snow. It was more the temperature and the wind that we had to deal with. I was doing a little bit of driving on, I guess it was Christmas Eve. It was the 23rd, and didn't make it too far. I was driving around some, and the visibility was very bad. There were cars off in the ditch and one place and another, and I hadn't gone too far. And I thought, if I was still working, I would be telling people right now to stay off the roads unless it was an absolute emergency. And I was out for something that was not an absolute emergency. So I decided to turn around and come home where it was nice and warm and just enjoy myself here. So I hope none of you had too much trouble getting around during that time. I hope there was not any issues with not being able to complete last minute shopping or anything like that. But like I said, we weathered that storm literally, and now it's warming up here today. I think it was up in the high 40s or almost 50, and it's supposed to get up even warmer over the weekend. Turning my attention back to the chat log here, Jeff Tim says topic: pistols at ranges of 100 yards. I've shot handguns at that distance before, and I actually have at least one video up where I was doing that, shooting a 100-yard range at a human silhouette target with a couple of different handguns. It's always fun to try your skill at that kind of distance. Obviously, the greater distance with any kind of shooting, the more difficult it becomes, and the more any type of errors on the shooter's part become apparent. And I don't know, if the mood strikes me, I might make another one of those, or maybe a couple more. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And John Ladd says, good afternoon from Tennessee. Good afternoon to you. Carl Bierke says, right as can be. All right. Well, I'm glad I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of pronouncing your name correctly. Milkman is listening on his way home from work, so I hope this gives you something entertaining to listen to. Peacemaker 121772 says, I've been online since the early 2000s, still not very technically inclined. Computers still drive me nuts. Yeah, me too. Which is funny because I think a lot of people just assume that if you have a YouTube channel and you do live streams and all that type of thing, that you're very technically literate. I am technically sort of competent on some days. On other days, not so much. But I do my best. And it looks like we just got a request from somebody for the first person that wants to be a guest. So I'm going to jump over here. And I will be sending a response to Rick, who's interested in joining as a guest. And off it goes. Rick, when you get that, all you have to do is click on the link. It'll bring you here. I'll get a notification, and I can bring you into the room, and we'll do the split screen thing. But yeah, I think a lot of people have that expectation that, if you do the kind of things that I do, that you have some kind of great computer skill and knowledge and all that. And I'm here to tell you it's not true. Let's see. What do we got back over here? Chechatonga says 50 yards is my max with a handgun. After that, transition to a rifle. That's a wise policy. I've made some 50-yard shots on deer with handguns before, and I was glad that I was able to do it. But yeah, beyond that, especially if you're shooting at anything that's important, or maybe I should say important not to miss, if you have a rifle available, that's the way to go. John Raskowski says, hello, folks. New guy here. HR, I was looking forward to meeting you at the Nationals this year, but I know you were unable to attend. Yeah, and I'm hoping I can make it next year. This year, we had so many things going on over the course of the summer of 2022, with my daughter graduating high school and getting her graduation party and getting her off to college and all that kind of thing. And one thing and another, it was extremely hectic. And I'm hoping that next year I have more time to do those kind of things. One of them is to be able to attend the national matches. Chase Kelly is here, says, been a great year, HR Funk. Enjoyed all you did and shared. Happy New Year to you and the family. Thank you very much, Chase. Happy New Year to you, and I appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. Uh, Carl Bierke says, long ago, a friend of mine used to plink with a 45 Colt. It ranges around 1,000 yards. Wow. That would be sort of lobbing them in like artillery shells coming in at that kind of distance. Luke B, a personal computer, maybe servers and dedicated machines, not so much. Paul, aka Headhog, says, I spent an early afternoon at the range burning some 38 special and 357 mag. That sounds like a good time. It's one of the things with 38 specials, especially, is it's such a pleasant shooting round with any kind of a handgun with any sort of weight to it that you sort of forget how much fun it is to just shoot and enjoy the experience. As you know, we do so much training for serious activities, whether it be defensive shooting or matches or whatever. To just go out and shoot for fun, it's hard to beat a 38 special or even a 22 for that matter. Jeff Tim says, I've had an internet account of one sort or another since 1983. Wow. Holy smokes, Jeff. That must have been the old kind where you actually put the telephone in the cradle thing and the computer talked somehow through the phone lines. That was actually before I had anything to do with computers. And it's funny because when I was in school, I graduated in 1984. When I was a freshman in 1979, 1980, the computers were the old one-piece computers where the screen and the keyboard was built in and everything. And we had like 4 or 5 of them in school. And the only people that were allowed to touch them were the really advanced math students. And I don't know what sort of calculus or trigonometry or whatever class you had to be in to be able to use the computers. But the rest of us schlubs couldn't even touch them. And by the time I was a senior in high school, we had a computer in the library. I think it might have been an Apple II or something like that, but it was one that you could actually, and those of us that were the lower tier, like me, could actually go in and mess around with this thing. And I actually learned some things. There was a book that was like basic computer programming for computers of that era, and I figured out a couple of little silly things, but never much. And it wasn't until many years later that I finally actually got my own personal computer. It was probably somewhere around 1997 or so. I think I got my first personal computer and sort of kind of started learning how to look at things online and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I haven't really progressed a whole lot beyond that, even to this point. And I am now neglecting the comments over here. And by the way, I sent out that notice to Rick, or the link to Rick, and we haven't heard from him. So I'm not sure if he's having problems or what. Ken Kaufman says, hey, HR, what was your favorite shift with the PD? It changed over the years. When I was a young officer, I loved this. It was a split shift that we had. It split the difference between second shift and third shift. It went from, I think, 8 at night until 4 in the morning or something like that. Love that shift. That's when everything, all the exciting stuff was going on. Everything was happening. Couldn't work that enough. As years went by and I got a little bit older, second shift worked for me a little bit better. I loved, I still caught, a lot of the stuff that was going on, later in the shift, but I got home at a little bit more reasonable hour. I would, get enough sleep that I could get up in the morning and I have my whole day to do whatever I wanted to do, and then back to work, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I worked that for a long time. Midnight shift and I never got along. Even going back when I was in the Marine Corps, I cannot sleep during the day and have never been able to. And I've done all kinds of different things, tried, all the curtains that are supposed to make the room absolutely dark, and, different sleep aids and one thing, and nothing works to help me sleep during the day. Always hated day shift until I got a lot farther on in my career. Then it was nice to work some day shifts, particularly when I was chief. It was nice during those later years of my career to work day shifts. So the shift that I liked really changed throughout the time that I was a police officer. Luke B has had internet since it was made available to the public with ARPANET. I hope I'm saying that right. Switched to TCP/IP. That's actually going back to terms before I had any knowledge of computers, internet, or anything else. Icarian says, "What's the hardest part of joining law enforcement SWAT team, especially as a sniper?" The first thing I'll tell you is you can't join as a particular part of the team. If you have an interest in the tactical team, the first thing you have to do is obviously become a police officer. You have to be a very good police officer. You have to be able to demonstrate that you have the capability to work as a member of a team, and that you are very capable and competent. And then most police departments have a selection process to become part of their tactical team. And it varies somewhat from department to department. But a lot of times there are people that have been waiting for that assignment for a long time, and they will get, the first shot at it. And again, depending on the department, there is a process to go through, whether it be physical fitness type requirements or other types of requirements that they will have that is essentially a test to become a member of the department's tactical team. And if you are selected, then you will be assigned to whatever place they need someone at that point. Usually that's going to be as an entry team member. And then you start to work as a member of the tactical team. If a sniper position comes open, then again, a lot of times there are people that are waiting to get into that position. So again, there's usually a selection. Now, one of the things that's done in the more sophisticated teams is there is actually not only physical testing, vision testing, things like that, but also psychological testing that goes along with some of these placements. And that's especially important in the sniper's position because you have to have somebody that is very, the only expression that comes to mind is cool under pressure. You can't have somebody that is, a very hyped up sort of person. They have to be very cool, very calm, very calculating, if you will, because you absolutely positively have to have somebody that can make the right decision at the right time and not make the wrong decision at the wrong time, if that makes sense. So there is a lot that goes into not only getting into law enforcement, then eventually getting into a tactical team and then ultimately working as a sniper. And in all that rambling, I need to go back here now, or after all that rambling, I need to see what else you all have been asking. Ron Picard says, "Happy New Year to you and your family." Thank you. And Jeff Tim, Salt Malt's mentioning floppy disks. There's a term from the past. Luke B says, "I'm a system administrator by trade." Okay, well, that would explain why you have such a knowledge of some of these things. I've been fascinated with the history of the modem and computing since childhood. And that's good. And I can remember being a kid. And, people would talk about computers being the wave of the future. And nobody had one, not in their home. And the idea that it was somehow going to be as commonplace as a television or a radio or something like that at some point in the future just seemed kind of far-fetched. I mean, that was something that was a facet of science fiction. But obviously, they really have come to pass and have become very, very popular. And those of you that got in very early and learned as things developed, really have a tremendous head start over people like me that jumped in, halfway between and are trying to play catch up here in more recent years. Ron Picard says, "When I was a rookie, we were issued Smith & Wesson Model 66 Combat Magnum. Loved that weapon." I don't blame you. I love the Combat Magnums. I was never issued a revolver for a duty service sidearm. By the time I came around, semi-autos were really starting to take off, and I always had one version or another of a semi-auto throughout my career. Other than just occasionally, if I was carrying one, particularly when I was chief of police, once in a while, I would carry a revolver. I went to revolver instructor training because, particularly when I joined my department where I spent most of my career, we had officers who were still carrying revolvers as duty sidearms, and we also had officers who were carrying revolvers for off-duty and backup purposes. So I had to be a revolver instructor, and I went to that training, and I spent a lot of time with revolvers, but I never actually carried one as a duty sidearm myself. So all that said, I am a huge fan of the Combat Magnum. I think it's one of the best wheel guns ever devised, either as the Model 19 or the Model 66. It just is that just right size and weight and handling characteristics and pointability and all that. The distinguished combat magnums, the 686 and the 586, or the 581 or 681, are very, very good wheel guns, but they're a little bigger, a little heavier, whereas the Model 19 and Model 66 are just that lighter, just very nice, very pointable, very carryable package. And I just don't think anything has quite matched them in that in those aspects. Let's see. A lot of you guys are talking to each other, so I'm just kind of scanning down through here, looking for the next comment directed at me. Carl Bjerke received security training with a Model 10. Very cool classic revolver, and carried a Model 28, another classic revolver. Very good. But that was long ago. I know what you mean. There are things that I think back to early in my career that it's like, how could that possibly be so far back in the past? When I think back, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it's just amazing that much time has gone by. Oh, Dan Byers has to bow out. Looks like he's going on a fire call. Be careful, Dan. KD Cowboys here. Glad to see you, KD. Got to shoot your Bull Armory 1911 Commander. Great pistol. Sorry, it's a 9mm. Don't be sorry. I'm carrying my 9mm 1911 right now. It's on my belt at this moment, and I think it's a great handgun. Craig Benz never did learn how to program a VCR. You know what? Now that's a funny story, because I did when I was a kid, and my parents got their very first VCR. This must have been circa 1980 or something, whatever VCRs were in their infancy. And it was so old that it didn't have a wireless remote. It had a remote control that connected to the VCR by wire. But I actually sat down with the owner's manual to that thing and read through it. I was the only one in the family that could program it to come on at a certain time and, get it to start and stop and do all the tricks that it would do, slow motion and what have you, whatever it did back in those days. And from that time on, whenever I've got some new piece of technology, I always want to sit down and read the owner's manual. But the problem is now nothing comes with an owner's manual. You're supposed to watch a YouTube video or go online and, go to the manufacturer's website or whatever. So I'm dating myself even talking about owner's manuals. Art6555 says, hi from Montana. Best firearm was issued was an M1A, squad designated marksman in Iraq. That's cool. And I would love to hear about your experiences with that, considering that the M1A/M14 had been sidelined for so many years after the early 1960s, and then was brought out of mothballs and reconfigured and reconditioned and reissued again in the early 2000s. I am a huge fan of the M14/M1A, but I never used it when I was in the Marine Corps, never used it for any serious purposes. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. No school like old school. Katie Cowboy, field strip, the field strip is a little weird. You have to use a little pin to keep the spring compressed. I'm not sure who you were talking to, KD, but I don't think it was me. Craig Benz, my only gripe about the K-frame is trying to use one with itty bitty grips. Uh, and I get that. I know those old service grips, the real small ones, did not give you a whole lot to hold on to. The nice thing with revolvers is it's so easy to swap grips out and find something that's actually going to fit your hands. Jeff Tim saw Bill Gates in a closed circuit conference, thought he was crazy, saying there was going to be a computer on every desk. Yeah, everybody did in those days. Nobody believed that, or at least not that we would see during our lifetime. Maybe hundreds of years in the future when you get into the Star Trek era. But nobody thought that was going to happen as rapidly as it did. Lucky One, as a combat medic, we were issued the 1911 45. Never had to use anything else. Reigned in 1970. Okay. And yeah, and by the time I was in the Marine Corps in the mid 1980s, they were still in use. I've been a lifelong 1911 fan, and it's amazing how many of us who started with a 1911 years ago still like that handgun today. Now, I know of a couple of people, one very notably comes to mind, who started out with a 1911 back in the day and really does not particularly care for them currently. But I guess a lot of it depends on the experience you had and the training you had with them and everything else. He mentions that the 1911s he shot were very inaccurate and they had a lot of problems with them and everything else. So I can kind of understand maybe where his less than favorable opinion came from. But for me, they've always been fantastic handguns. Ron Picard, the Charter Arms snub weapon. What was it called that you made the video of? It was the Boxer, the Charter Arms Boxer that I made the video on a while back, which for the price of that handgun, I was pretty impressed by. It did what it was supposed to do. It didn't give me any problems to speak of. I thought it was a good little wheel gun. Josh Twyman is here from Western Oklahoma. How you doing, Josh? Glad you joined. I guess it's Icarian. So speaking of marksman, I want to become a sniper because I like recon stuff, not to be designated marksman. Military sniper would make more sense. Force recon, Marines is my favorite unit. The thing you have to keep in mind if you're going into the military, a lot of those assignments, like assignment as a sniper or assignment as recon or force recon or whatever, are things that you do after you join and become a Marine and demonstrate your ability to function as a Marine, kind of like I was talking about with becoming a member of a police tactical team. My suggestion would be, if you go into the military, go in to whatever MOS you're going into and try to do the best job you can at that, and then see where that takes you. So that way you're not disappointed if you go in with an expectation that you're going to get this particular assignment or that particular assignment or what have you, and it doesn't come along and you end up being unhappy about the way things went. The military is always going to put you where they think they need you. They're not going to be too concerned with where you want to go, if that makes any sense. And I think I lost my place here. KD, anyone ever own a Radical Arms AR-15? I have not. I've heard of them. I've heard good things about them, but I've not handled one or shot one, and definitely not owned one. Okay, now that makes sense, since it was trained, not ringed. That's why I was a little lost there when I was reading that. Jeff Tim, Fort Hood, Texas, 1975, still had an M1D sniper rifle. All right. I did not realize the M1D was still around that late. I would have thought, well, of course, the Army, they didn't switch over to the M21 system until what? The mid 1980s, late 1980s, something like that. So I guess maybe I'm not so surprised by that. Although I guess I would have thought they would have had an M21 rather than M1D. or not the M21, oh shucks. I would have expected they would have had the M21, the M14 based system, and it was not the M21, it was the M24. That's what I'm trying to think of that they didn't adopt till the 1980s. Carl Bierke says, my career has changed several times, from alarm security technician to aircraft maintenance engineer to experimental secret government. Okay, I won't tell anybody. Art 6555, the M1A was awesome, but they gave me an old Winchester 12 gauge Vietnam era. Really? Kind of surprised one of those was still laying around. For my fighting shoddy, I liked it, but the extractor broke on a raid one time. Yeah, that surprised me. That would have been a Winchester this late in the game. That thing must have been in an armory for years and years and years. Then they issued a brand new Mossberg 590. By the way, just rewatched the Remington Work versus 590 video. I hope the 590 worked better for you. It's a good shotgun, like I said in the video, and I had some fun with that video. By the way, people still yell at me about that. I thought it was going to be pretty apparent that I was, sort of playing that up, that I'm, biased, for the 870. I like the 870 better. That's just me. But I was doing that in the video as a joke, and I still get like hate comments to this day. You're so biased. You didn't give it a fair chance on it. Well, yeah, I was kind of trying to, do that as a spoof or just as fun. But yeah, some people are very touchy. Art 6555 was funny how you were leading in that you'd be unbiased. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. And again, people just they get bent out of shape with me. I had somebody yelling at me yesterday in the comments about a shoulder holster, and nobody should listen to anybody that would suggest carrying a shoulder holster, and they should ignore me, and I'm whatever, out of date and out of touch and all that, which is entirely true as far as that goes. But this person was very upset with me that I would dare to suggest that anyone would use a shoulder holster. Logica Redo got my first AR this Christmas. Good. I'm glad Santa Claus was good to you. Palmetto State Armory, good choice. That's one I do have experience with. I've now got 2 PSAs, and I really like them. And that's one of those that, it's kind of a budget AR, but it's a good AR. It works well. Both of mine that I have work very, very well. They do everything I want them to do. I've never had any problems with them. So I hope you have as good of an opinion of yours after you get a chance to use it for a while as I have of mine. Jeff Tim, the M21 was limited issue in the 1970s. Okay. I don't think I knew that. Luke B, my kids got me a new ball cap for Christmas. My wife got me some ammo. Well, that's okay. It's the thought that counts. Ammo is cool. Dan Byers, USMC Sniper School in Quantico is probably the most in-depth sniper school in the military, not taking anything away from Army Sniper School. We had MPs, we had the MP equivalent to a SWAT team when I was at Cherry Point, and we had some of our MPs that went through the sniper training at Quantico. I was not one of them, and I wish I had been. Fortunately, years later, when I went through the Ohio Peace Officer Training Commission's sniper course, that had been set up. Carlos Hathcock actually came up to the academy and helped the staff set up the training course for law enforcement snipers. So there were a lot of similarities, of course, between the Marine Corps course and the course that they produced for police officers. We were doing a lot of the, stalking and camouflage and concealment and all that kind of thing. But still, I wish I would have had the opportunity to go through the Marine Corps school, but just never did. Lucky One says the Winchester Model 12 was highly used when you're okay. I didn't know that. I'm assuming that was used in the Army. And in the Marine Corps, we had older 870s that had been around forever and ever. In fact, they had a special designation. They were called the Mark 1 or the Mark 2 or something like that, the 870s that were used by the Marine Corps. And they had a couple of odd features about them. They had like a bayonet lug and a different sort of a clamp between the barrel and the magazine tube. But essentially, for all intents and purposes, it was an 870. Luke B, yesterday was my birthday, so I got a new, so I got to order a new stock for my main carbine without getting any go. Good for you, and happy belated birthday. Jeff Tim, have you seen the new non-Remington 870s? I have seen them. I've not handled one. I don't really know anything about them other than I've just seen them hanging on the wall of a few different gun shops. So kind of waiting to see what the reports are going to be like for those. And I still don't know who's running that factory or who's making them. They're still branded as Remingtons, but someone else had to have bought the firearms business. Craig Benz, have you reviewed any 762 by 39 uppers? I have. I actually had one of those. Was that this year or last year? That was a Rock River Arms, as I recall. And that's the only one I think I've done to date. But it worked pretty well. It was, kind of that blend between the AR and the AK. It didn't have a last round bolt hold open or anything like that. But it was a reliable enough firearm, and it was, accurate, reasonably accurate. So I can't say anything bad about it. Luke B repeatedly expressed to my family not to get me anything for Christmas. Well, they mostly listened. ERJG 1954 is here. Says, you can only keep one, no cheating, M1A, M1 Garand, or M1 carbine, rank in order you would keep each. With no context as to, what's circumstances surrounding, is this, as things are now, is this some sort of, zombie apocalypse or what have you? If things are just as they are now, and I had to choose one of them, I would probably go M1, M14/M1A, and M1 carbine. Now, if we're talking about, end of the world scenario, zombie apocalypse and whatever, the M14 and the M1 would switch places. I would go with the M14/M1A first and the M1 second, and then the carbine last. Josh Twyman, have you ever owned a Remington 700? I have a 270 700 ADL, which is my deer rifle, and love it. I've got 2 Remington 700s here at the moment. One of them is a 308. The other one's a 300 Magnum. Both of them are Remington 700Ps, so they're a little bit different than your rifle as far as weight and configuration and all that. But yeah, I've got 2 of them. So if I've always been a fan of the 700s, good rifles, and one of them in 270 should be a great deer rifle. Mr. Vuicho, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, says, everybody's an expert until it happens to them. I used to carry my pistol in a SciTac or SciTac polymer holster, fell down a slope and got a barrel full of, this thing keeps jumping, that's why I have a hard time reading it. Barrel full of dirt. Now I carry a shoulder holster. Well, I hope that works better. And I hope you don't spend too much time falling down any more slopes. Dan Byers, Vista Outdoor, I believe, runs that. Well, Remington was part of Vista Outdoors previously, but I don't know that that's who's running them currently. When Remington was broken up by the court, whatever it's been now, 2 years ago or so, and the ammunition business was sold off, and the firearms business was sold off, and the sporting goods part was sold off, and all the different pieces and parts went different places, and they were bought by different organizations. I'm just not sure who got the firearms part. New owners are making them 870s are called Rem Arms. Okay. I have a feeling they were probably called something else before that. Still in Ilion, New York. That part I knew. I knew they still had the factory there. And I'm not sure what happened to it, because they had a component that was in North Carolina. They had a component that was in Arkansas, plus the Ely, New York plant, not to mention smaller places all around. So yeah, I'm not sure just exactly how all that was divided up and who got what. We know that Ruger got Marlin, and who was it that bought the ammunition business? It was somebody that makes 2 or 3 other types of ammunition, and it just won't come to me right now who that was. It was a fairly well-known company. I just can't think who it was. Lucky One, your opinion on Ruger Gunsight Scout and 308. I've seen them, and I've seen favorable reviews on them. I've not handled or shot one myself, so I can't really give you any personal opinion of them. Luke B, it's sad what happened to Remington, especially towards the end. I agree. I was and am a Remington fan of the classic Remington firearms, manufactured back in the day, and had been around forever and ever and ever. And to see how that all went in their waning decade or two is it is sad. And I made a video about that not long after they were defunct. Mo, thank you very much for the contribution. I appreciate it. Says, love your vids from Saudi Arabia. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching all the way in Saudi Arabia, and thank you for the contribution. Peacemaker 121-772, being in a wheelchair, a shoulder holster is really the only option you have. I can understand that, and I'm glad that works well for you. Yeah, and again, that whole thing with the person that was giving me a hard time yesterday, I don't know what it is about the firearms community that people not only become so opinionated, but their opinion is the only opinion, and if you don't adopt that, then somehow you are wrong or inferior or old-fashioned or whatever. But that just seems to be a characteristic of this community. Oh, and by the way, before we go any farther, I've got the non-firing replica for today's live stream. This is a non-firing replica of one of the most famous revolvers ever manufactured. It is a non-firing replica of a Smith & Wesson Model 29 44 Magnum. Very similar to the one made famous in some movies during the 1970s into the 1980s with a fictional San Francisco inspector whose name I won't mention. And that's our non-firing replica for the live stream. KD Cowboy, are Taylor's and Company pistols any good? I think they are. They're importers, and then the way I understand it is they import their various firearms from overseas manufacturers, and then they tweak them when they get here, and they will do some things to the action or do some things to the finish or sight work or whatever to kind of give it their own flavor. And from what I know, they're very good firearms. Obviously it depends somewhat on the quality of the manufacturer overseas, but I think they get them from some pretty reputable overseas manufacturers, and I think they have a good reputation here. Josh Twyman killed an 8-point buck at 650 yards. Good shot. Love the 270 flat shooting. Yeah, it's another one of those great old time cartridges that's been around forever and ever and just keeps doing what it does just as well as it did, years and years ago. So good job, good shot, and I'm not really surprised to hear that. Blaine Colbury says, looks like you have Russia's EIB mic. Nope, it's not a gold. This is the aluminum non-EIB microphone. This was a gift, by the way. My son got me this, I think, last year for Christmas. And I got this mic stand finally so I can use the thing and bring it over here. So hopefully I sound good to everyone out there who's listening and watching. And you guys are talking to each other, so I'm just trying to zip down through here. Carl Bjerke says, sweet replica. Thank you. Untidy Harold. Yeah, it was something like that. Josh Twyman. Okay, it looks like that's talking to somebody else there. Dirty Howard. Art 6555. Anyone that got mad at you over the Remington 870 versus Mossberg 590 needs medication. Yeah, I thought everybody would get that I was pulling their chain a little bit in that video and just having some fun. But yes, some people, like I said, some people just have no sense of humor. Carl Bierke, I love my DD Guides Choice 1911 chest holster. All right, cool. Have you heard of them? I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar to me. Jeff Tim, back in 1973, my platoon leader was from Oklahoma. He had a Winchester Model 70 in 308 with a 10 power scope. Thought he was crazy until I got into Oklahoma. Wow. Yeah, Model 70 and 308 sounds like it would have been a great combination. And wow, I'm all caught up with the comments. What's our time looking like here? We're at the 46-minute mark with 51 of you here. Thank you all for joining. Again, I'll throw this out because I haven't said it for a long time now, but if anybody wants to join as a guest, just hit me with an email here and I will send you a link. We had one person that requested a link earlier from Rick, and I never got anything back from him, so I'm not sure what happened there. We'll probably keep the stream going for about an hour, so another 15 minutes or so this evening. But I do appreciate you all joining. And like I said at the very beginning of the show, that I really wanted to just get together and have a, sort of one last hurrah, if you will, in 2022, where we could have a great conversation, take a look at a non-firing replica, and just exchange some ideas and thoughts here. 2022 has been a busy year for me, interesting year, a lot of changes this year. Finally went from being employed forever to being retired, which is something I think I'm still trying to get used to. It's been kind of fun, but it's still weird. I actually retired. What month is this? We're at the end of December. I retired at the beginning of October. So I've had about 3 months now to try to wrap my mind around this whole retirement gig. And it's been nice. It's given me the opportunity to spend a lot more time trying to, work on the YouTube videos and put content out there for all of you. But it's also been so busy with the other things going on in my life that I still feel like I'm rushed and just haven't really been able to settle into a groove with, production schedule and family things and all that. So hopefully in 2023, I'll get that all figured out. Or who knows, maybe I'll take another job in 2023, be right back into the same boat that I've been in for the last 10 years now. Back to the comments here. Icarian says, I don't know, in the early 2000s, a lot of SF guys were using chest holsters, and I think they still do. And I use my security job that I just retired from. I went to carrying a holster on my tactical vest, an external holster in a chest mount, and I really liked that. It was great, especially, for when I was seated, either in a vehicle or wherever else. It was very accessible. I didn't have, like I have arms on the chair here that I didn't have to worry about if I needed to access that while I was sitting down. It just made a very handy, very carryable means to be able to use that handgun. Peter Monk says, Happy New Year to all. Happy New Year to you, Peter. Lane's Domain is here. No problem. Glad you made it, ED. Thanks for joining. Sam Flynn says, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Josh Twyman says, for his 8-point, that 650-yard shot, he upped the zoom level to 9 power and let the crosshairs on the top of the deer's back. That must have been just the right hold then, and went right through his lungs. So what about 30-ish inch drop? Maybe not quite. At 650 yards, that's not bad. Cal L, may your 2023 bring you joy and happiness. All the best. Thank you. Thank you very much. Uh-oh. Art 6555 is mad at me for retiring. Uh, sorry. Dan Byers, enjoy the retirement. Thank you, Dan. The NYPD is looking for officers. It's funny because I was talking to my friend who's still a chief of police in my former department, and he said something a while back about coming and taking the test there and whatever. I thought, yeah, I can't imagine going out to work the street again at this point. Too much has changed. The expectations in law enforcement these days are so much different. The job has changed. The community. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess maybe just to say the communities have changed, and the way they look at law enforcement is also much different now than it was back in the day. I think I'd still do okay working with people. I think I could still talk to people well and effectively, but I don't know. I would probably start doing some things the way we used to do them in the old days, and I'd end up getting in trouble. And probably best to let old dogs not have to learn any new tricks. Boosta McCalla says chest and shoulder rigs are definitely comfortable. Used a Miami Classic in the winter under my police coat. Yeah, I used to do that too for backup. I would have my primary sidearm, obviously in a strong side belt holster, and then in the wintertime I had a winter coat, and I'd have a backup in a shoulder holster. It made a very quick and easily accessible backup handgun. The only thing that always worried me is if I was fighting with somebody and they managed to get an arm inside my jacket, they might come across that handgun, which was the biggest reason I stopped doing that. Then I went to carrying a small handgun in my offside pants pocket. So that way, if somebody was trying to do a gun snatch, I could actually lock in my primary handgun with my strong hand, and I could access my backup handgun with my non-dominant hand and be able to resolve that problem. So I carried a handgun, a backup handgun in that way for a long, long time. And I'm completely lost in the comments again here. Or 6555, I'm new at being old. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean there. Lucky one, your armchair brings up an excellent point. I had a discussion with someone on an ambi safety being unsafe due to seat belts and armchairs moving the safety off. Your thoughts? This is going to sound backward, but I am not a big ambi safety fan on handguns for the most part. And the reason being, if you are right-handed, the left-hand safety always is kind of in the way. And same thing on like ARs. I don't care for an ambi safety on my AR. Generally speaking, if you have the safety on the wrong side, if you're left-handed, you can usually reach over to the opposite side and sweep the safety off with your shooting thumb, and then reattain your primary grip. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just not a big fan of ambi safeties. It seems like they're always in the way. Like you pointed out, they can get bumped and knocked off and everything else. I have some of my handguns that have an ambi safety, and I would be just as happy if they did not. A Monk 93, leadership on the streets, is that the duty of law enforcement? That's a good question. I would say historically, that is the role of law enforcement, or at least one of the roles of law enforcement. As of today, I'm not sure that's still the expectation. HR Funk, get a consultant's gig. What a great job, a consultant. You just tell people what your opinion is. Hey, what do you think about this? Well, here's what you ought to do this, you ought to do that. Wow. Yeah, can you imagine getting paid for that? Bustamalaka, I hope I'm saying that right. The NYPD was a good job. It was a country club. Guys who transferred outside agencies said that they never worked so hard. Really? Never at the outside agencies, you mean? I'm surprised. But then again, maybe not. One of the things, a common misconception in law enforcement is that the most difficult places to work are the really large departments. But in the really large department, there are so many resources, both personnel and equipment, and support personnel. One of the things when I left my first department that I retired from and took the chief of police job at a much smaller agency was all the support personnel and all the resources that we used to have at my former department weren't there at the place where I was chief of police. And all of a sudden, as chief, I was doing, what the personnel department used to do at the old department, and I was doing what the, vehicle maintenance people used to do, and I was doing what, the chief of police used to do, and I was doing what some of the other supervisors. When you have all of those resources available, and then you go someplace where they're not, it very much makes things a lot of ways much more difficult. Joseph Simonis says Remington was purchased by Round Hill Group. All right, thank you. A real estate investment company. The firearms part, and I assume that's what you mean. The firearms part was purchased by them. All right, well, thank you for that information. I did not know that. So now at least I know who bought them. Sparky59 says, Happy New Year, HR. If I remember right, you were my wife's FTO. Really? When she first... Oh, man. Okay, yes. Mary. I know who you're talking about now. We since moved to Tennessee, and she actually commented on one of my videos a year or so ago. So be sure to tell her I said hi. Hope she's doing great. I know she left our department, went to another one a little farther north, and spent a number of years there. And I'm not sure if she retired from there or what ultimately happened, but hope she's doing great. So again, tell her I said hi. Ricardo Perez, live in California and never seen so much crime so bad. That's unfortunate, and it, the parts of our country where crime is just running rampant, and it happened to, not surprisingly, coincide with places where police officers are under so much scrutiny and so many restrictions. And I don't know what the solution is going to be to this situation that we're finding ourselves in. ED likes the ambi safety but doesn't use it. Okay. Art 6555 says, good luck and keep up the videos. Really like the practical you bring to the party. Thank you. Thanks, Art. I appreciate that. And I try to do that. I try not to get caught up in so much of the emotion and the hoopla with a lot of this stuff. I try to approach it more as a more well grounded, I guess, would be the way that I can put it. I watch some videos and I think to myself, take a breath, ratchet it down a little bit, think about what your I guess what the ultimate function is of the item that you're talking about or what have you. And I don't know. I just prefer that a little bit more, a little less of the emotion, I guess, comes to mind. Josh Twyman, I mostly want to leave my 1022 alone. Don't blame me for that. It was a gift from my dad, and would like to do something on it, just a basic build. I want to get into that more. I would say if you want to do something like that, keep the one you got from your dad in its, in the condition that it's in, and look at getting another one that you want to use to do some sort of a project on. They really don't cost that much, the 1022s, depending on which version you look at. Or you can start with basically just parts, like a receiver that you can get from Brownells that are usually manufactured by another company, and then just start building a rifle from there with essentially 1022 parts. Vincent P says, HR, have you done a review on the Beretta PX4 Storm? If not, I'd like to hear your thoughts. I have not. I've had a lot of people ask me about that. A lot of people ask me to do a review on one. I have handled them. I've looked at them. I don't think I've ever shot one, but if I do get a hold of one, you'll see it in a video, and I'll let you know what I think of it. Jeff Tim, so many folks on the right side. So many folks took the right side safety off the Smith & Wesson 669 that it's irreplaceable. The 669, I'd have to pull mine out, my 469 out. I can't remember. I guess that did have an ambi safety because that's got it started out with a non-ambi safety, and then they had the safety lever that they put on the right-hand side that was attached with a screw. And then when they went to the third generation, they had a different attachment with a spring and plunger. So that kind of went through an evolution over the years. But I think the very first ones did not have that feature. And I don't think mine has an ambi safety. Busta Malika, I have a 45 Beretta Storm, great, reliable, and accurate. Passed rigorous tests for the special ops team. All right, good, cool. I like Beretta pistols. I'm a fan of Beretta pistols. I've just not had any real experience with the PX4. Kevin Griffin just got an M&P Shield Plus, pretty good for carry. Good. I had a Shield for years that ultimately, when I got my Springfield Armory Hellcat, it was a little smaller, a little more carryable package. So my Shield became surplus at that point. I ended up trading it, but it was always a good pistol. Never had any issues with my Shield. And the Shield Plus is going to be that plus additional ammunition. Peacemaker 121 772, if not mistaken. I think Hickok 45 did a review on the Storm years ago. Okay, I would imagine he did. He's done a review on just about everything that's been released over the years. Brutus 13 says, howdy from Wyoming. Howdy to you, Brutus. Thanks for joining. A Monk 93, my uncle is coming to dinner, used to be a volunteer deputy. Can't wait to ask him questions. Any questions you recommend? Ask him what some of the funniest things were he saw when he was working. Those are the things that come to my mind the quick. And I'll tell you something. Whenever cops are put in a situation where they have to deal with animals, something funny comes out of it. Whether it's, cattle that get loose and they're running around on a roadway somewhere, or, people that have wild animals get into their home or whatever. But those are some of the funniest things. I had a friend, I'll tell this one, and I won't identify my friend because I don't want to embarrass him. But we got a call of somebody that had a squirrel trapped in their basement. Of course, people don't know who they called, so they call the police. We're not animal control, but they call the police. So we get there. And what had happened was there was a squirrel in this woman's basement. This was an older home that had some, means that the squirrel was able to get inside. And the woman, when she saw the squirrel in her basement, it came up the stairs toward her and apparently was making a leap for freedom. And she slammed the basement door shut, and it's closed on the squirrel's paw. So its paw was stuck in the door and it couldn't get away. So it was trapped. It couldn't go anywhere. But we had to figure out a way to try and get it out of there. So I devised this brilliant plan where I was going to take this box, and I forget where I got a box, or no, that was a trash can. That's what it was. It was a trash can. And I was going to put the trash can over the squirrel, and then I had a piece of cardboard or something that I slid between the door and the squirrel. So I would have it trapped in the trash can with the cardboard over top of it. And then all I had to do, there was a side door to the basement. I just had to get out that door and throw it to get said squirrel out of the basement and leave as the hero of the story. So my friend was there with me. There were two of us on this call, and I think he just wanted to see if I could actually pull this off. So he's watching, and I'm it actually worked. I got the trash can over the squirrel, and I put the cardboard, slid it between the open end of the trash can and the squirrel, got him captured in there. So now I tell the woman, open the door, and she opens the door, which releases his paw, and I've got him trapped. And he's now, trying to get out of the trash can, and I'm like running to the door, trying to hold this all together till I get to the door, and I throw it out the door, trash can, squirrel, cardboard, everything. The trash can hits the ground, and the squirrel leaps out, and he's like Squirrelzilla. He is mad, and my buddy is standing there, and he like goes after my buddy, and this big, he's 6'1", 6'2", something like that, is running to get away from the squirrel, and the squirrel's after him, trying to. It was the funniest damn thing to see this big man being chased around the backyard by this squirrel that was like on a whatever death vendetta trying to get him, and finally it ran up a tree or something like that before my friend ended up with teeth marks in his back or something like that. But yeah, whenever you mix cops with animals, things just will not go right. I had one time, and I won't tell the long version of the story. I'll tell the short version. But somebody had a raccoon in their home, and we had these silly snares that we were supposed to use for dogs if we were capturing vicious dogs. And again, we're not animal control. Anyway, I lassoed the raccoon with this snare thing, and it's like a long pole with a loop on the end, and I managed to, and it's around the raccoon's waist, and this thing was mad too. So I get it out of the house, and these people have a chain link fence at the back of their home, or the back of their yard. So I decide I'm going to hold the raccoon over the chain link fence and release the snare, so the raccoon will fall onto the ground, and I'll be safe on this side of the fence, and it won't be able to get to me and attack me. So I hold and again, brilliant plan. I hold the snare over the fence and I release it, but I didn't hold it far enough so that the raccoon, as it was falling, latches onto the chain link fence and climbs back up to the top. And then the top of the chain link fence had this like a pole or a frame for it. And it didn't jump back towards me, but it went running along that. And I never saw anything quite like this. It ran along that pole and jumped off to the neighbor's yard. The neighbors were having this party. It was like an outdoor party, the birthday party or something, with a bunch of kids and balloons and everything. And the next thing I know, this raccoon is running through the neighbor's yard, and women are screaming and grabbing their kids. And it's like something from Christmas Vacation. There are like plates breaking and things being knocked over and chairs and everything else. And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to get in trouble for this one. So I like went back out, told the people that originally called, okay, he's gone, jumped in my cruiser and took off. And but shockingly, I never got in trouble for that. Never got a call or anything else. I don't know if the people didn't realize where the raccoon came from or whatever. But yeah, cops and animals, never a good thing. Okay, where are we? I've been telling too many stories about myself. AGNB says, I've had Marine friends quit their law enforcement jobs, take up less stressful jobs. Thanks for all your videos. I've been using the TZOS duty. Okay, cool. TZOS duty. Thoughts on imported firearms. I'll tell you what, my TZOS 1911 is a good handgun. And some of the other Turkish handguns, my Canik handgun is another good one. So I can't say anything bad about anything that's imported from Turkey that I own so far. Ain't nothing squirrel proof. SOS, one time after watching Harry Potter with the snakes in the basement, flying squirrel fell down a vent pipe, crawled into a toilet bowl. Best to throw a blanket on top of it and walk. Yeah. Whatever you can do, whatever gets it out of there. Squirrels carry rabies, shoot on sight. Yeah, I didn't want to blast a squirrel in this woman's house. All right, gang, we exceeded the hour point. So I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate everything, all the support throughout 2022. I always want to end the live streams on this note and tell you how much it means that all of you, watch the videos, comment on the videos, interact with the live streams. Yeah, I say this all the time. I mean it. I have the best viewers on YouTube. Really, I have the best viewers on the internet as far as I can tell. You are all tremendous. Just like tonight, not a negative comment in all of this. Even ERJG behaved himself, so that's always good. But I don't know of anybody else on YouTube that can say that, that doesn't get the trolls and doesn't get, the nasty comments and the profanity and all that kind of stuff. You were all tremendous, making donations during this, my channel members and the subscription that you guys pay, just phenomenal. Thank you for everything in 2022 and over the course of these last 10 years. I hope that I can continue to meet your expectations in 2023 and beyond. Have a fantastic new year. Have a safe New Year's Eve. Please, everyone, be careful on New Year's Eve. If you're going out, be careful. If you're having a drink or two, have somebody who's not having a drink or two drive you, please. And be very, very cautious of all the people out there who are not having someone who's not had a drink or two drive. I want to see you all. The next time we have a live stream, I want to see you all commenting again in the next videos to come. And now all I've got to do is get these new videos for next week produced and we'll make it on time. So again, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you had a tremendous holiday season. I hope you have a great 2023, and we'll do this again sometime soon. See you all, and until then, good shooting, and bye-bye.